Twin bomb blasts on Wednesday killed at least 91 people in southern Iran, many of whom were part of a crowd commemorating former Revolutionary Guards Chief Qasem Soleimani 4 years after he died in a US strike. Now, this attack unfolded during a memorial ceremony near the tomb of Qasem Soleimani, former chief of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, who was killed in a US drone strike in Iraq in January 2020. A video of the attack now has surfaced online, reportedly showing the moment one of the bombs went off. The video opens on a busy street with the bus slowly making a turn. Right then, a massive blast takes place in the background, filling the area with dust and smoke. Well, let's quickly take a look now at those visuals to understand what exactly transpired, what were the moments like when that explosion occurred in Iran. So as you can see over here, this is a busy street with people walking. This is a video which captures the exact moment when the blast took place. You can see a bus is of course coming there as well. There are also cars which are parked in the street there. It's obviously a busy street there in Iran. It's obviously a big occasion, a commemoration of the former general's anniversary. A bus then also approaches into the street. As you can see, of course, the bus is coming. Literally 3 seconds after that, this is this very moment when the blast takes place. As you can see there, it's a huge blast. The blast occurs. Big, thick smoke billowing everywhere. Obviously, smoke erupts from that spot. You can see there the bus, starts moving. It's obviously shocked with what exactly happened. Obviously, so many people have died because that was a busy street. So many people were, of course, on the street at that point. They all, unfortunately, have lost their lives. Remember, over 100 people were killed over there. Let's show you that moment again. 3, 2, 1. And that's straight when the blast occurs there. Obviously, as you can see there, literally the bus was shaking. It takes a pause. The people, of course, shocked. Some people start running away as well. And of course, unfortunately, many people lose their lives as a result of that explosion. Let's quickly take this across now to our experts as well joining us. Let's open this up. Also with us live is Ambassador Bhashpati Mukherjee, former diplomat. We have Major General A.K. Sewaj, former head of the Territorial Army, joining us live. Crew Captain U.K. Devnath, former Indian Air Force officer, also joins us live. Let me get started with you first, Ambassador Mukherjee. Clearly these visuals telling the entire story. These are the moments when that explosion there happened. Obviously, there were two. These are one of the blasts. And many casualties, since it was a very busy street, as we of course can see in these pictures.
Yes, indeed, Uday, it actually demonstrates that all is not well in that part of the world. There is a growing Shia-Sunni divide. The Islamic State appears to be coming back into action, and many of these actions, while some have been triggered by what's happening between Israel and Hamas, others seem to be demonstrating that this part of the world, which was earlier quite quiet, and in fact at one point one had looked at the possibility of a permanent peace agreement holding between Saudi Arabia and Israel, etc., everything seems to be unraveling. And this is one of it. It is highly possible that the Iranians will also take revenge because they have said that one of the two so-called martyred terrorists was a Tajik. They are looking for the nationality of the second. Since the Islamic State has taken responsibility, they will definitely try to take a revenge attack. But there could be other links which have not yet been made public, which are being investigated, because the fact that such an attack could take place, as you rightly pointed out, in such a crowded part of Iran, which with impunity, because they came very close to where the crowd was and blew themselves up, also shows that Iranian security perhaps is not what it used to be. That the Iranians also need to look at their own internal security arrangements, and they also need to understand that the Shia-Sunni divide is getting wider by the day. Whenever that happens, you have more violence and more terrorist attacks across this volatile region. And that, in the background of what is happening between Hamas and Israel, does not portend well for other major players, which includes the United States and the West, uh, and also India, because we have very major stakes both in maintaining a balance between the Shia Sunni world, because we have a huge Muslim population of Shias and Sunnis, and we've also tried to carefully maintain a balance between Iran on one side and the Sunnis led by Saudi Arabia on the other. And of late, we have become very close to Saudi Arabia and UAE, so we too would have to calculate very carefully what these actions portend on the anniversary of the assassination of General Soleimani. Uday.
Obviously, now the IS has claimed responsibility for this attack. A horrific explosion, obviously very, very well planned. Bombs were planted there, were detonated remotely. Tell us about what you felt about this video when you first saw it, and the nature of the explosion, the modus operandi used, and also now the IS hand emerging.
Yeah, Uday, as far as this incident is concerned, there is no doubt about it. This has a signature of Islamic State, because rightfully they have claimed it also, and it had nothing to do with Israel. Now, therefore, what actually has happened one is very clear, that this was basically a memorial ceremony of Major General Qasem Soleimani, who was killed by the Americans 4 years back in Iraq by the drone attack. And he was the one who was the mastermind, because he was the head of Iran Revolutionary Guard. In fact, he was looking after all the operation outside, all the militant group he was coordinating, whether it is Hezbollah or Hamas or Houthi rebel and others. And he was targeted that time by the CIA, and he was killed. And since it was the fourth anniversary, memorial anniversary, it was initially thought that possibly it is handiwork of Israel or US. But things are becoming very clear. One, the US has completely denied their hand in this. Second thing is, Islamic State itself has owned up that this is basically handiwork of them. But the question comes is, why are they like to do it now? Now, as far as the present situation is concerned, Ibrahim Raisi has first pointed out the finger toward Israel and US, and he's saying that it is a heinous, cowardly act and they have to pay for it. But certainly his expert must have now informed him that it is possibly by the Islamic State. Now, as far as the divide between Sunni and Shia, there is no doubt about it. The other problem which can occur is that today the situation is very grave in Middle East, and the things getting out of hand is very much possible. A day prior to this blast, which had taken place, Saleh al-Arodi, who was the deputy leader of Hamas, he was killed in Beirut in Lebanon. So things are at edge, and once such a thing happened, then the war getting into a regional war, there was a possibility, but luckily it has not happened, since Islamic State has very clearly brought out. But why Islamic State is basically interested? Because they are primarily Sunnis, and they feel that Major General Qasem Soleimani was also targeting Sunni terrorist group, and he was working against their interests. So that was the main reason possibly they have targeted. And this was an opportune moment, because so many people have gathered and the casualty is very high. That is approximately 100 people are killed and more than 250 have been injured. So this is no denying the fact that it is being done by the Islamic State. But certainly the whole situation is now become very complex, and it is very tricky, and it is on the edge. And as on today, the Sunni Shia divide has also come. Very rightly brought by the ambassador also, not only that the Saudis were having good relation now with Israel, also the Saudis and Iran were coming closer, basically kind courtesy China. Their diplomatic relation, which was not there for 7 years, were again brought in. So certainly things were going in that direction. The Sunnis and Shias were coming closer. But why? What has happened now? And once it is very clear that Islamic State has done it, which is a primarily a Sunni militant group, this divide will increase. And also the chances of this Hamas-Israel war going out of hand and becoming a regional war possibility is still there, because Houthi rebels are becoming very, very aggressive in Red Sea. They are still targeting commercial ships, and due to which the whole world is now feeling a heat of it, because everyone has to take a detour which has to be Cape of Good Hope, which by which the interest or the rate has increased almost by 30%, and it is taking 15 days. So Uday, possibly I can only say that what has happened in Iran can further complicate the situation, and things can go out of hand, and one has to see it in next about another few days how things fan out in West Asia is has to be watched very carefully by the whole world. Uday.
Yes, Group Captain Devnath, let me quickly take that across to you as well. Group Captain Devnath, for what you believe led to this incident, led to this explosion. What do you believe was the messaging, the motive behind carrying out this explosion, the way it was carried out, what the modus operandi, the occasion they chose, the spot they chose tells us?
Uday, very, very surprising development, because at this moment, most of us were expecting, at least the military analysts were expecting that because of Hamas and Israel war, the Shia and Sunni forces in Arab world will join up. It did not happen. This explosion shows that Sunnis still carry a huge amount of grudge against Iranians, that is Shia leadership of Iran. It goes without saying, all of us knew otherwise, that Iran has been carrying out anti-ISIS operations in Iraq. And Iran has always supported various militant groups who were Shia based prominently. Now, notwithstanding that, it was expected that in view of Israel attack on Hamas and Gaza, all these groups will stand together. Is this an attempt by some power to sabotage the unity, a so-called unity of Arab world? Could be. This attack shows IS has owned up. It shows the typical hallmarks of IS. They selected a crowded area. They selected a timing when everyone gathers to offer prayer. And they selected, apparently, as per one of the reports, they used suicide belts. Both the bombers, they were equipped with suicide belts. So normally IS activists and IS uses suicide belts very often. Now, but fact still remains that motive is not very clear. And what do they gain by this? I am very sure Saudi will not inspire any ISIS remnants in Arab or West Asia to attack Iran, because Saudi and Iran have come close on their own initiative as well as guided by China. And it does not serve Saudi purpose right now at the moment to carry out any direct confrontation with Iran. Yes, the attack on Saleh Arori in Lebanon, Beirut, everyone was surprised, because one expected that probably Iran will show some signs of softening up. It was expected that Israel will show some signs of softening up, because a lot of effort being made by various countries, including Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey also, so that both the sides, they at least in principle agree to scale down the skirmish and the very, very violent happenings in Gaza. So it is a mixed scenario right now. It does not augur well for ISIS operations. In any case, ISIS has been decimated from Arab world. All the Western countries have succeeded in convincing Arab nations and their governments to come down very heavily on ISIS. A little bit of ISIS remains in this part of Iraq, especially northern part of Iraq. A bit of ISIS, not in its extreme form, still survives in Afghanistan. Yes, Iran occasionally carries out anti-ISIS operation in Iraq, and earlier it used to carry out some anti-ISIS operation in Afghanistan also. But that grudge was not good enough to cause such a huge bomb blast in Iran right now. Does not serve any short-term or long-term objective of ISIS. Yes, Uday?
Yes. Okay. Let me take that back now to Ambassador Mukherjee also now on what this tells us about the state of affairs in the Middle East, in that region, Ambassador Mukherjee. This explosion, of course, killing hundreds in Iran. We are also, of course, learning of now fresh developments with Hezbollah firing rockets to Israel. We've also, of course, learned of that attack in Beirut. Meanwhile, other developments also continue to play out in other parts of the Middle East. What is the current state of the Middle East? Tell us really, and where are things headed in the days ahead, Ambassador Mukherjee?
Look, it's a very complex situation because Hezbollah is linked with Iran and is virtually a proxy. So if they've taken out, if they are trading gunfire with Israel, that would be at the instance of Iran. On the other hand, the Islamic State, as has been rightly brought out by my co-panelists, has been virtually decimated, and there does not appear to be any particular direct benefit to its principal sponsors, the Sunni sponsors, for doing the act that they did. On the contrary, a growing Shia-Sunni divide is good for Israel because it divides Muslim opinion on what they are doing in Gaza. And as has been frequently pointed out too, that the number of casualties, Palestinian casualties in Gaza, till today does not exceed that black moment in Jordan when Palestinians were killed by a military force led by the then Pakistani dictator who had been sent. That was before he became the Pakistani dictator. He was the deputy army chief at that time, and he led those operations which killed more Palestinians in Jordan than any have been killed till now in this entire operation by the Israelis in the Gaza Strip. The peace overtures in between Israel and the Palestinians are continuing, led, of course, by not just by Qatar, but also by other countries. And I think we should look at what has happened in Iran, divorced from what is happening in the Gaza Strip between Israel and Hamas. We should look at it as an indication of two things. Number one, is the Islamic State getting resurrected, which is not good for India either? In that case, who is Islamic State's principal sponsor? Thirdly, are the West doing a kind of covert operation and using some remnants of the Islamic State in Iran to teach the Iranians a lesson, or to give the indication that just as they brought down the general 4 years ago with a drone, they are capable at any point of time of teaching the Iranians a lesson. And this is particularly interesting because clearly, if the situation in the Red Sea does not stabilize over the next couple of weeks and the American economy takes a hit, there is a strong possibility that the Americans, along with some others, will go in and take out the Houthis from where those little boats are coming. In that case, if that happens, do we look at a wider conflagration, or would that be the wisest thing to do, given the fact that there are many countries taking huge losses because they are not being able to use the Red Sea outlets, and they are going by the Cape of Good Hope, and Egypt is also losing a lot of money, and so are countries like India, etc., who are dependent on imported oil. So that is a more likely scenario, that could these two who blew themselves up actually not be Islamic State directly, but be proxies of the West to teach the Iranians a lesson. In such a complex scenario, it is impossible to know right now because there are so many, as the military would put, General Sivaj would agree with me, it's called so many smoking guns and so much of smoke all over that you have to actually go into the smoke to understand where the signals and signs are coming from, which is what our armed forces do in such covert operations. What is clear is that at some point the Americans and their allies will have to go in and fix the Houthis, just as the Indian Navy is becoming more and more vigilant and looking at our own interests. They have already rescued one ship day before yesterday. They will continue to do so because the Indian Navy is committed to anti-piracy operations with which they cooperate with the navies of the Quad. So we are perhaps looking then at either an end of the conflict or a widening of the conflict, depending upon how much more firepower the Houthis, etc. have.
Do you also see a widening in the conflict in the days ahead, both on land and at sea? Of course, we are already learning of Iran now vowing revenge for what has transpired on their soil. There's, of course, all that's happening on sea as well, as Ambassador Mukherjee just mentioned. Major General Sivaj.
Of course, Uday, it looks like that. See, the point is, as on today, the Houthi rebels are becoming very, very active in Red Sea. And now, as far as US is concerned, US has given a lot of warning. There is a multilateral maritime force under US has been there where 12 countries are there. And the name is Operation Garden Security. That has also not succeeded. And so the point today is that in case they have to take action against Houthi rebels, their bases are in Yemen. So therefore, they have to now take action against Yemen. And once they take action against Yemen, the danger is then the war may enlarge it. It may become a regional war. Then the Iran can also come. So far, they are trying to register. They do not want this war to become a regional. They just want the Israel to go after Hamas, and the Houthi rebel must be given warning, and they must now behave. But it doesn't seem to be that the Houthi rebels are listening to anyone. They are doing what they are doing. As far as India is concerned, India is not part of this multinational forum. The reason is simple. We don't want to spoil relations with Iran. We have sent our own four of destroyers, which is basically INS Kolkata and Chennai, Visakhapatnam and Margova. But certainly the situation is becoming very complex. How things will unfold in future, it is anyone's guess. In case Houthi rebel keep on targeting this commercial ship, which is hurting the whole world, the possibility of then this multinational force going against Houthi rebel in Yemen is there. And then what will be the final reaction of Iran? That is a point to be seen. So if you link it by what has happened there in Iran, it looks like that, yes, I tend to agree what Ambassador is trying to convey, that at the present, the Sunnis and Shias do not want any rift. But by doing what has been done, and ISS has done it, whether it is handiwork of someone else, and influence the IS. Because as on today, if you see, Iran is a Shia country and the Hamas are basically Sunnis. And whereas Hezbollah and Houthi rebels are Shia. So the unity was there between Sunnis and Shias.
Okay.
Basically, the Shias were fighting for the cause of Sunni. But by doing this, the whole situation is now changed. So overall, I can say, Uday, situation is very complex.
All right, I'm going to have to leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.